Welcome to the Wake Up Dad Show, a Daddiest production. This podcast is for you, Dad. This is where we talk about all things related to dadhood, from parenting to relationships to financial and physical health. Your hosts, Dr. Scott and Dr. Evan, are two dads who are committed to helping you. Join our Facebook community by searching Daddiest, where conscious dads connect and collaborate. Hey, dads, welcome to the Wake Up Dad Show. I'm your co-host, Dr. Evan. I got with me Dr. Scotty V.
In the house.
All right. The melting house, by the way. It's pretty. You got a
melting house, by the way. Because there's a heat wave. I'm not in the hottest place, but it's. If I look it up, I'm at 32 today, and the humidity's up around 90%. So, it's,
poor thing.
I know. I saw you guys in the snow, and I was really hoping to have to put on a jacket today. But instead, I will have to jump in the pool a couple of times.
Oh man, that's rough.
It's tough. Somebody's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it. Well, you're doing really well at this. We have a great show for you today. We have a special guest. His name's Brian DeCastro, and he's a friend that has really been working in the dad space, and he's got some really cool offerings. And so I want to start off just really, introducing Brian. So Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. So just a quick, a quick summary of Brian and what he's about and what he's going to be able to bring to the call. So first of all, Brian is a married dad. He's been married for 14 years. He's got a 7-year-old son, and he's like the breakthrough master. He's the guy who basically takes dad and helps them get to that point where they got a breakthrough and they're making some advancements in their life, wherever that may be. And what's cool about his skill set is that he combines the knowledge that he has in health and fitness, as well as he's been studying, manhood and parenting, relationships, those sorts of things. But he mixes all this with some intuitive work, which is a really, really cool combination. So really excited to have Brian on the show here. So I thought what we'd do is we'd start off just letting Brian share his story, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks again for having me on the show. I guess the short bio I could give you here is I've been in the fitness industry for over 20 years. Started out as a personal trainer after I graduated from school. And I just started pursuing more additional skills after the first few years in nutritional coaching and holistic lifestyle coaching, because I was finding that I tend to have a knack for building trust quickly in clients, and they tend to open up, and they're opening up about personal stuff. And when I was at the time, I was in my mid-20s, really kind of unsure what to do with this information. So I was trying to gain more tools, and that spun me on a little bit more of a path, studying through the Check Institute with Paul Check and its holistic lifestyle coaching program, and just bringing this stuff into my own life as well. And I used to compete in powerlifting as well for about 10 years. And in 2005, I blew my pec out training for a competition. And one thing that really sort of resonated with me in that moment was the moment after I popped off the bench and grabbed my shoulder, I felt a tremendous amount of relief out of all things, right? So I suddenly realized that I was kind of straying from my past. And I did feel a little bit stuck at the time in my life. And that spun me on adding a little bit more of a spiritual path to what I was doing. And I continued developing these skills. And over time, I realized that I was able to actually not only work with people's bodies physically in the gym, but also work with people at a more intuitive level, like picking up on things that are just subtle, coming from their energy and coming from, you know, the things they're saying and stuff, and being able to coach them through those things, especially when they're stuck in their health or in a certain aspect of their life. So what's really helped me recently was gaining my my mastery level in Reiki in the last couple of years, which is really kind of just gave me another thing, another skill that I can facilitate. If someone's even just really tired and can't really put in a lot of training at that day, or sometimes when they want to go a little bit deeper into what they can learn from what their body's telling them. So I was told by one client one time that he was not only communicating with me directly, but you're communicating with my body and giving me what I need. And quite often when I step into a session with someone, I do a process that I use to prepare myself. And it basically takes my ego and my own agenda out of the way. And I'm present with them. And it's almost like we're co-creating the workout together, and things are coming together in present time in the moment. And then I just document it after. So it's really changed.
What do you mean by document it after? Just curious.
Like,
I've already got a list of about 7 questions for you, but that was
it's what I mean by document is a traditional personal training like log, right? Instead of writing out their programs, I document what happened after, and then I can track it. I can track the trends and stuff like that. But quite often, you know, sometimes in the past, I would have a strength training program ready for someone because that's what we would do on a Wednesday or something. But they come in and they do not look like they're ready to do strength training that day. So I've learned to start to just deviate and think on my feet a little bit more, picking up on where they're at and being present with them and trying to get as close as I possibly can to give them what they need at that time to move them forward, and not forcing them into a place like how I forced myself on the bench press that day and blew myself up because I wasn't paying attention to what I really needed at the time, right? So I guess that was kind of like I learned my own lesson and it enhanced what I was able to do for people shortly after that injury too. Like I got married, I got promoted at work. I started to build my business. Like I started to really focus on a whole bunch of other things that were very important for me to start doing. So, yeah, it's been an interesting journey for sure, to say the least.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Because I could think in my own mind, and you know, I guess it depends on where you're at in life. But when you said as soon as you blew your pack that you had a sense of relief, and I was like, yeah, that's such a very like you probably subconsciously you actually wanted it to happen, right? Like I'm done with this. It's not working out. I need something to happen here, and your body sort of went, all right, bro, I'll do something for you. Bam, there goes your pack. That's something for you, isn't it? You said you wanted something. Here it is.
Yeah.
So I love that. Go ahead.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is when I continued studying the Eastern medicine work after the injury, I was actually able to analyze and interpret my injury energetically. So I blew out the left side, which in energy medicine is the feminine side, the receptive side to the love center, right? And I was getting married that year. It's also connected to your job. So if you're having job dissatisfaction or job stress, it stresses the heart and the chest and the area that innervates that area. So there was a lot of things that were just dots were getting connected. Like when I started to really interpret the injury and how it occurred and what was going on with me at the time. Plus, it was anger that put me into the sport of powerlifting. And after I got injured, I found that to go back to it, it was really hard to get myself to become that angry person again to get under a 400-pound barbell. It was gone. It was no longer in me anymore. So there was a lot of different emotions and feelings and things going on at both the physical and the non-physical or energetic level that just made so much sense to me. And then when I started cross-examining this with clients with ankle injuries and knee injuries and things that weren't healing as quick as they should be, or, illness or, and I just start reading the chakra system or the energy system, and they're all associated to specific things. So I'm able to coach people using that as a map, right? And bringing light to things.
I'm sure a lot of the dads listening are like,
what the hell?
Well, I've got this left. No, not that. More so like, all right, I got this left elbow injury. All right, cool. Now, me instantly, I've got this right knee aggravated thing that keeps, popping up. So
yeah,
I'm sure the dads are out there asking, okay, what does right-sided mean? You said left-sided is feminine, job stress.
So
what's the right side?
So the right side is the masculine side, right? So an expressive side, right? So, for example, when I was in my last job, we were doing this massive $50 million expansion. Our gym was doubling in size and all this stuff was happening. And we had to make these deadlines. And after it was done, I had these massive targets I had to reach to replenish the business, right? So, and I basically developed plantar fasciitis in my right foot. And the way I felt that showed up for me symbolically was, I'm putting my foot down, I'm going to assert myself and make these unrealistic goals happen, right? And I remember not really doing anything. I wasn't running at the time. I wasn't doing anything specific that caused it to happen. It just started to develop over time. And it was through that whole course of that year that I couldn't get this injury licked. But it's like it's not getting released, right? So if you have any issues on your right side, it has a lot to do with not letting go of something, not being able to release something, right?
Okay.
So
for the dads out there, plantar fasciitis is underneath the foot.
An inflammation.
Because it's actually quite common. Both myself and Evan, the chiropractors I'm practicing at the moment, I hear people talk about that probably at least once a week. So it's actually a really common thing. So I'm sure some dads listening will have this. That sort of inflammation under the foot when you get up in the mornings or when you're sitting down for a while and you feel like that old man hobbling around. That's what it is.
Yeah. And I tell people too that the interpretation is part of it. It doesn't mean we're going to abandon physical exercise, getting manual therapies, getting treatments. You're going to do all that stuff, but there's some people that get the chiropractic treatments or the manual therapies, that they're doing all the right things and they're in tune with their body and they're in tune with what's going on in their lives, and they tend to heal faster. And then there's other people that are just basically just banging their heads against the wall, trying to do everything they can, but not stopping for a second and going, what's going on in my life right now that has me compromised, that's not allowing me to heal, right? And then that's when injuries and things tend to become even more chronic. They just seem to just always be there, right? So these are the things too that really just pushed me to keep learning this, because it just blew my mind sometimes. So some clients they're either really injury prone or they don't seem to get better. And then I had other clients that, have like 3 herniated discs and all these history of injuries, but they're capable of doing some phenomenal stuff in the gym because they're just in tune with what's happening in their lives and taking care of their bodies and stuff, right? So it's something that's really pushed me to keep looking and keep exploring what more can be done and what more can be applied to support them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some words come to mind for me as you're speaking there, Brian. So, I think a lot of it is about taking responsibility and taking inventory. So, it's actually, so we have the P6 of dadhood, which is really encompasses, all the areas of, what we have going on, like our relationships. So we call that passion, parenting, providing, play, performance, and power. And we're writing a book right now, and as we're writing out the chapters, really, like, it's so critical that dads take inventory, in the different areas. We have to actually take a look and be like, where are we at? And truthfully, like, to be honest and take an honest inventory of what's actually going on in our lives, versus, like, how many times have you guys heard, like, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, or like, just kind of like, yeah, I haven't had a heart attack, so I don't need to get my blood checked or whatever. Like, just kind of this, like, I don't know, turning a blind eye to potentially what may be going on beneath the surface, not necessarily being conscious of maybe how they're not processing events, or they're not dealing with things, and how that could be playing out in their emotional state or whatever it may be. And so, yeah, I think things are changing radically, and I think dads nowadays are really looking at having enjoying their lives, and playing full out, and playing at a high level in all areas, so they can really, have a great life, have a great family, and that sort of thing. And so having somebody like yourself, Bri, who's got this ability to help them kind of dissect what's going on with the information that you're bringing to the table, I think it's really powerful. And really going back to the P6 of dadhood, and the different areas, and you've got really a strong presence in the health area, but you do in the other areas as well. Any words on that, though, like, as far as being a dad and having that foundation of health, and how critical that is for them? Do you have any words on that?
Yeah, you mentioned power, and a lot of what I'm doing with people, especially in the very beginning of when we start working within the first 2 weeks, is auditing their lifestyle and paying attention to where they're losing power in their life. And whether it be mental bandwidth, or like physical, like lack of rest, or whatever it is. And I have them not change anything, but just for the first week, observe yourself, observe your days, observe your routines, and tell me what you noticed at the end of the week, right? And it usually becomes pretty obvious after the first 2 or 3 days what their routines and habits are. And then we start going, okay, so what is that? Why is it that you're snacking at 3 o'clock every afternoon? Like, are you hungry? Have you planned your meals out properly that day or by that time? And, that maybe they realize that there's more emotion around the times that they're snacking. And, it's just something, it's like it's a blind spot. It's been so ingrained in them that they weren't even aware of it until I said, pay attention this week. Mm-hmm. Right. So I don't usually over-program people in the very beginning. I have them just start becoming aware, and then they bring back to me what they found. And then we discuss what the next step is. And then they're usually already on board already, because they realize what it was, right? And that's a huge part there. And I think bottom line with regards to health too, and dads and parenting, is like, health is a prerequisite. Like, if you have control over it, it's like, health is a prerequisite to performing the way you need to perform as a dad, as a husband, as a professional. Your mental clarity is better when you're healthier, that sort of thing, right? You can last longer. You can push through those hard times and then recover. If you're compromised in something that's actually trainable, that you have power over, you're giving yourself a better shot if you just have that reserve. And I'm not talking about, like, when you scroll on Instagram and you see these completely shredded guys doing like one arm handstand push-ups and stuff. Like, that's not going to necessarily make me a better dad. It'll make me a better looking dad probably, but like it's not required. It's right. So I have people ask, like regular people I work with, right? I ask them, what is required in your life? If you're a 50-year-old man and you have 3 kids, what is required for you? What's going to make how strong do you need to be? How fast do you need to run a mile? Right. And I look at those things, because then we can create a combine for him, right? That fits for his lifestyle, that gets him excited, but also it also relates and resonates with what he needs, right? So that's a huge thing as far as where the health comes in. Like, one thing I joke about is the man flu, which is like we always get made fun of when we have a flu because we curl up in a ball under a rock, like
Yeah.
and our wives, when our wives have the flu, they're like slaying dragons and they're getting everything done, right? So I think we very much as men relate to our physicality, and if we honestly don't feel like we can hunt the mammoth that day, we go right into restorative mode. We go right into a mode that just kind of pulls right back. I find I do. And but when it's the opposite, when we feel really strong, when we feel invincible or empowered or powerful, we're going to do that extra thing. We're going to get that extra thing done. We're going to get off the couch and we're going to do things. So, which is a massive contribution to your family life, right? So that on its own is usually a big motivator if we can find the thing that sticks enough when people know what the impact is of them not having that health, right?
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
what I see is some, like, we talk about the P6 all the time within the Daddiest group, within ourselves, and trying to organize and maximize that to be the best, to have it all as dads, right? Because that's a true belief for us inside the Daddiest movement, is that as dads, we can have it all. But as you said, it's not about and I love one-handed handstand push-up. I'm like, wow, that would be extremely impressive.
Yeah.
Like, I think, it's like one hand push-up, yeah, that's okay. One hand pull-up, that's okay. One hand handstand push-up would be pretty impressive. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So when we say have it all, we're not talking about, like the 3% body fat and making $10 million a year and, having sex 7 times a day and, having 24 hours a day to play with the kids. But what we're talking about is, we can have realistic expectations around achieving goals in all of those 6 areas. And what I hear you saying quite a bit of is how much power plays into performance. And power for us basically is that, like, big picture, that vision, that mindset about what you want to achieve in life, and how much that can then play into the performance, which is really your overall health. And I got to say, I'd love to train with you, because I push myself pretty hard in the performance section, and I do train really hard, but I do tend to, if I don't really go off too many cues. Like, I'm like, when it's train time, it's train time. It's train time. Like, bam, I'm there. So like, when you mentioned that about, like, you feel it out, and you don't have a set this is what we're going to do today. It's like, I've got of course you're going to have an idea, you're going to move forward, but seeing where they are. And like, one thing that I think dads could potentially use, and I'm a bit of a gadget guy, is heart rate variability. Right, just look that up on your phones. There's apps for it. You can put your finger on there and get a sense of where your stress levels are at, so that you can then go, okay, you know what, my heart rate variability sucks today. Maybe I shouldn't do that 3-hour high intensity interval training. Maybe I should do some restorative yoga, or something along those lines, and using those cues, because you're going to get better results from that. And that's where somebody like you, I think, could come in and just really guide people. Because again, I'm like I don't call it the alpha. That's not what it is. But the, You know, when I train, I'm going for it. And sometimes that could be to my detriment.
Totally.
Yeah.
So
Well,
using somebody
I was like that. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was like that myself when I was competing, definitely. And I had a hard time shaking that after I retired from powerlifting. But I developed something that tended to keep me out of trouble. And I've tried it with clients as an exercise before. Just ask 3 questions before you go. It's got to be within a half an hour before your workout. And just ask 3 questions. And you score each question, right? So a yes is 1, a maybe is 2, and a no is 3. So the first question is, physically, are you prepared to give it your all today? No matter what is dealt in front of you, are you physically prepared to give it your all? Yes, no, or maybe, right? Second question is, are you mentally and emotionally prepared to deal with whatever I give you today, or whatever I take on today? So if I give you a hard CrossFit workout or something, are you prepared to mentally go through that today? Or is there some stuff stressing you out right now that you need to clear your head or whatever? Yes, no, or maybe. The third one is a workout right now in the next hour, is that going to serve your higher purpose? Is going to serve your day today? Is it going to achieve what you set out to do today? Or are you standing in the gym right now going, I have no business being here right now because I have 3 deadlines that need to get done at the office, right? So yes, no, or maybe, right? So when you answer those questions, if it's like a 3 out of 9, then you're good to go. If it's something in the middle, I usually say train with caution, proceed with the plan, train with caution. And if it's getting higher up around 8 or 9 out of 9, you could be like almost too stressed out to benefit from something too catabolic or too intense, right? So then I might flip it. They're already there, so let's flip it to a restorative workout. We'll do some mobility workout, some light mobility work, and some light movement, and then we'll finish with 15, 20 minutes of Reiki after. So I just change the workout completely. Just give them what they need, and then make them better than they were when they came in. So those 3 things I asked, and I tried it out, and it kept me out of trouble for a while from overtraining. That was my problem.
When you just did that whole thing, I've taken notes like crazy here. I got like tingles down my arms, like literally tingles down my arms, because I think that will help me to. I'll test it and see, because instantly I went, you know what, that there, if I truly answer that and I'm ready to go, I'll be able to train even harder, right? Because I'll be mentally prepared. My power will be in order for my performance to just kick in at a higher gear. So thanks for that. That's awesome.
Yeah. What happens is you start to get in flow. You start to get in flow with what is happening in your life and what is happening in your workouts. And I've stepped into the gym dressed to work out, did my self-evaluation, and turned around and went back to the office. Like I literally aborted the workout right there, because I was like an 8 or 9 out of 9. Like I have no business being here right now. And then I would do it the next day, and I was about a 7. So I did a light one. But when you keep following it, you're lining up that day where you're a 3 out of 9. And if like I'm a lot like you, like I want to go to war. All right. When I go over my workout. So I don't want to go in compromised. So when I started following this and getting in flow with myself again, I found one thing was I only had to work out like maybe twice a week really hard. And the other workouts were more restorative. It totally changed how I programmed, you know, because I was stuck in this powerlifting template for so long that I had to squat on Monday, right? Even though it's the last thing I felt like doing sometimes. So it was very helpful for me when I started using it and guiding clients with it.
That's awesome. We talked about in the pre-show a little bit about what we coined the term of these breakthrough sessions. And so just for the dads out there, because where are you physically?
I'm physically just north of Toronto.
Okay. So I'm not going to train with you tomorrow, obviously.
No.
So guide the dads through, right? Because we're going to give your contact information at the end. And by the way, Brian's in our Facebook group, Daddius, right? So you got access to him all the time in there, and he posts regularly and put some good content. So thanks for sharing with the dads in the group as well. But so dads, if you're not part of that group, look it up, Daddius on Facebook, look for the group and ask to join, because it's growing every day, which is fantastic. We're getting better and better content in there, and you got access to guys like this. And we're going to be going in and digging out these awesome dads within the group and interviewing them on a very consistent basis, because I think once the group is already at a great place with a lot of amazing people in there, but as we get more and more dads in there, the value that we're going to be able to provide through dads connecting, collaborating through the group is just going to be phenomenal. And so what I want the dads to understand is, like, if they're in your area, obviously you could like get together and train and do Reiki and like all of these things. And I think Reiki you can actually do online. Can you do over the airwaves? You can. Yeah.
I have distance clients. I have one client in the United States right now that I do chats with every couple of weeks, and he's training with his actual trainer at his home. So there's ways I could do this from a distance as well, for sure. And
that's what I was gonna get across is, like, for the dads out there listening, they might be going, well, I'm not in Northern Toronto, so I can't see this guy. But anywhere, like, so make sure to connect with, have a chat just to see how you can help them out, right? So make sure to connect with them. Could you take us through, like, just say I was inspired enough in this call to go, you know what, let's have a chat about this. Just take me through, and we don't want to go too much into detail because I think we're running out of time pretty quickly here. But what would happen? Like you said, the first couple of weeks would be, or the first week or two would be really self-exploration and looking at your habits and your priorities and getting a focus on that. And then what would happen there? Like, what would dads experience, say, over the first 1 to 2 to 3 months?
That's a great question. Before we even would get to that, we have that initial call where I find out what their goals are, and the goals do lead to if you were to have a big win in the next 90 days, what would that look like? What would that feel like? So we get to some sort of idea of what the measurement is of what they would want to be able to achieve in 90 days. With a certain amount of weight they want to lose, energy they want to have, things they're noticing that are not working out in their lives right now because of their energy. Like, what would you want to see improve? Mental clarity at work, that sort of thing. So those are the things that I'm looking at to kind of get an idea of what I can impact, make sure we're on the same page, and get to the roots of what might be a boundary, right? So when it's distance work, when I'm doing intuitive work with them as well, I'm doing a read of their field, picking up different areas that might trigger me to ask certain questions about certain things. And then it opens up a lot of possibilities as far as what is stressing them out the most, where the stress comes from. And then sometimes it gets a little bit abstract, but I've learned to take the information I get from our conversation and draw out action steps. So usually the first action step is what you just described, that exploratory lifestyle audit phase. And what's happening is I'm sort of getting into your life with you and understanding what you deal with over the course of the next 1 or 2 weeks. We start making small changes. And over the course of 3 months, like you asked, month 1, I call it the messy room. It's like you hire me to come step into your room and help you organize your room. It's a complete mess. And you ask me where to start. And then we just start. We just start by picking up books, putting them on shelves, putting things where we think they should go until the floor gets clear and things get organized. So by day 30, you're organized, right? Things are clear. And then days 30 to 60, I call it the void, where things kind of flatten out a little bit and your room's clean, but it's like, now what do I do? What do I create next? What happens next, right? So sometimes the demons we have creep up in that 30 to 60 day period where you get confronted with, wow, this is harder work than I thought and all that stuff. That's where the opportunity for the breakthrough month, which is 60 to 90, happens, where we just keep pushing through. And usually what happens at around day 90, I turn back to the client. I ask them, tell me what you learned in the last 3 months. And then they realize what gifts they've gained from putting themselves through that journey. And then we, at the same time, are measuring their strength, their endurance, has their body fat gone down, has their body weight gone down. Like we really make sure we're keeping track of that stuff, because if it's not going the way we want it to, we got to go back and check. So why is this happening and stuff like that? So that's kind of how it sort of plays out if you're to look at a 90-day period. But there's a lot of stuff that's very individual from one person to the next, right?
Well, a couple of things there for sure is, if what you measure changes. So it's super important to be having some strict measurements around things, but then also us as dads, there's two things that come to mind. Is you're not alone, right? As dads out there, we do, as men, we try and go ourselves. And with you, with like a one-on-one type of situation, could be where men and dads could be like super vulnerable and actually open up, and that's where the magic can happen, right? Like we want to create that within the group, but of course that's not going to be anywhere near the level where you can do it when you one-on-one with a dad who's done it, right? Who's going through the situation. And go ahead.
Yeah, if you can create a group where, and we've had this with the Guys, Beers, and Business group, we got 16 men in a room. Each one of those men was connected to one of the three of us who created the group that night, but predominantly most of them were all strangers to each other. But when you create the right setting, the right context and platform to share what's going on with you, we were surprised that first meeting we ever had, how quickly a lot of men really needed to get stuff off their chest and get things out. And it created a big connection for the men in the room, as long as you create that opportunity to have that kind of context. So I've seen some powerful stuff happen in groups as well. And I find my big thing is I like to be the guy in your corner, right? When I tell my clients, to go, look, if you're not eating properly, or if you're missing your workouts, I don't want you to hide from me. That's when you call me. If things are going well, like you can call me up to say, okay, what do I do next, or whatever. But also, like, if things are really not going well for you, that's when you got to really call me. You got to respond when I reach out to you, like, because that's what I'm here for. And I'm not going to give you a hard time about it. I'm going to help you out of there. Right. So that's what I love about what I do too. It's just a lot of fun bringing people back to the light, back to the past. Right.
Yeah. Because as a coach, I think, there's people who, there's things that they know, and there's things that they don't know, but they know that they don't know them, right? Like, easy example is like brain surgery. I don't know brain surgery, but I know I don't know it. But your job is the things that you don't know. Those things that are just blind spots. And when you have that second party looking at you in that way with that vision in mind to help with those blind spots, is where the magic can happen for sure. Yeah. And Evan was saying too about checking in on yourself, which, when you think about it, when you're checking in and stopping for a second and checking in on how you feel and everything, you're actually, when you think about it energetically, you're identifying with that feminine aspect of you, which is receptive. You're turning on and channeling, what do I need right now? And then you pause for a moment and the information comes in. And then your masculine energy executes what has to happen next, right? It's an interesting back and forth flow that happens. One day I sat down on my couch, in front of the fireplace with the dogs one morning before I started my day, and I sat there for a second. I just said, just wait for the day to come to you, right? And it took me about 15 minutes, and all of a sudden,
I knew what my next move was to be. And then that set my day into this nice little flow of all these cool things happening. I was very present with everyone I was with that day. And it was just like the most amazing day ever, as opposed to just kind of constantly going, and not really paying close attention to what you need, if you need a break, if you need to refocus or check in some way. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I think
well,
a couple of things to clue it up.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ev, you want to add anything. I'm thinking, put you on the spot here. I'd like you to try, which basically through the podcast, we're really trying to provide massive value for the dads out there to get the best out of it, from each separate podcast, to be able to take something away with something that they can do today, but then also looking for that next level. So do you have, and I'm going to steal number one from you already, so you actually have to come up with two. 3 tips for dads, something that they can do very quickly that can, create some change or push you in the right direction. And number one is those 3 questions that you do before your workouts, because I love that.
Okay.
That's number one already. So you,
yeah,
2 more.
That is a good one. There's okay. So there's that one. The pre-workout sort of self-evaluation is a good one. The second one would be the lifestyle audit. I start that with everybody. Like week 1 always looks the same with every client I start with, pretty much. So observe as much as you can remember in the day. Observe just everything. Just stop and just pay attention. Pay attention when you're pouring your coffee. How do you feel that day, at that time, in that moment? Be present with yourself for an entire week, under the context of, how can I find what I need that might be stealing my power or might allow me a chance to gain power back? And by the end of the week, people tend to notice things that are kind of like they were just automatically happening that they didn't realize they were doing. So that's the lifestyle audit is definitely something you can do right away. The third, I would say, if anyone listening is not on a program or had set any goals for quite some time, I would challenge them to write down a 90-day goal and write down measurable things that they would want to achieve by 90 days if it worked out their way. If they did the work and they worked out that way, also identify with what would the impact be if they did it or did not do it. Like what would happen if nothing happened, right? So
Yes.
That's something to explore. Whether they do it or not is one thing, but to kind of play around with it and go, well, if in 90 days, like that's not too far from now, but it's enough time to impact something. And I had one client, he kept showing up late one time, and I asked him, so what's the goal anyways? Because we hadn't set a goal in a while. I go, what would happen in 90 days? Like if it worked out for you. So I'd like to lose like 20 pounds or so, 20, 30 pounds. And we projected into when that was. That was July, when he was doing a trip up north and all this stuff. So it's in the summertime. So that just dialed him in. All of a sudden he was showing up on time. He was getting focused. He had a purpose again. Right. And then he blew like 20 pounds, 25 pounds in that time frame. And he was feeling awesome. And all we did was wake him up to like, you can choose now what happens next, right? So the pre-evaluation, pre-workout evaluation, lifestyle audit, and set a 90-day goal, but ask yourself what the impact is of achieving the goal.
Fantastic.
Those are my 3 things.
Awesome. And so I've mentioned before, if you're already in the Daddiest Facebook group, just reach out there. Easiest way to get a hold of you for sure. If you're not in the group, what's some ways that they can get a hold of you?
They can email me at brian@thedomesticathlete.com, and I'll respond there. I'm also in Instagram on Domestic Athlete is my page in Instagram. Those are pretty much the 3 areas that people usually catch me.
Cool.
Cool.
One of the things I'd like to do would be to gift some dads a breakout session with you, Bri. Would you be open to that if we gifted 3 dads that?
Yeah, I would say definitely the first 3 dads that connect through any of those means, I'll definitely gift a 1 hour, depends on where they are, either phone chat, or if in their local area, we can do a free sort of breakthrough session. And I'd love to do that. I die for that moment. I love that.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was it? Do you remember what you said in the pre-show?
I'm like a lion in a cage, ready to be like waiting to be let out when I get to meet with someone for the first time. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. My body's like vibrating when I'm doing it, and I really enjoy it because someone's being, for one, it's an honor to be trusted to go into that in like the first session. But I just find we generally have like a good time doing it. Like when you get to the other side of it, you pull the action steps out. It's like all those fundamental things that seemed really like challenging before have such a completely different way of resonating and motivating someone to actually move forward on it. So yeah, I definitely enjoy doing those things.
Amazing. All right. Well, you should have 3 messages in your inbox by the time we finish this podcast.
All right, hopefully.
Yeah, we haven't published it yet. Absolutely. Yeah. So, well, Bri, on behalf of Scott and I, we really want to thank you for taking your time, to really share so many gems. Like I have pages of notes here, and some things that I'm going to be able to apply right away. And I think it's so valuable. Scott and I, we're both personal development junkies and gone to many events and conferences and that sort of thing. And if you can pull 1 or 2 things out an event, it's worth it. And I've pulled that much, if not more, from this chat right here. So tons of value, and looking forward to seeing you on the page more and spending more time with you. And thanks again.
Sounds awesome. Thank you guys. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening. Remember, join our Facebook community, Daddiest, where conscious dads connect and collaborate.